Good afternoon, class. I am Kevin Young. I am the instructor for intercultural leadership, and the course has been open since January 8th. I intentionally waited just over a week to do this because what I learned years ago when I started teaching is that the first week to 2 weeks, that's when students are making decisions on whether they're going to stay in a course, all these kinds of things. And I learned. So, anyways, as I said, my name is Kevin Young, and I have been teaching this course with First Nations University for a couple of years now. As you know, it is completely self-directed. It is an asynchronous course, meaning there is no scheduled course time with myself. Everything has been placed accordingly in each week. And that is not at all to say that you can't reach out to me at any time, 7 days a week. You can send me an email asking questions about the course, textbook, whatever. And if interested, if the answer cannot be provided in an email or for whatever reason, I'm happy to set up a Zoom call. And that, for the most part, when I think about the Zoom calls that I've had with students, I think typically they are on the weekend. Um, but I also have availability on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. So that is always a possibility as well. Um, Hopefully by now you've had a chance to take a look at the course. I have seen that many of you have responded to the introduction request just to put some information down about yourselves, which is fantastic. It is a large class. I think there's a total of about 64 students. That's a lot compared to other courses that I teach. Where there are 20 to 30 students. And I am, by the way, located in Winnipeg, Manitoba, so I'm not in Saskatchewan. Um, but that doesn't impede on anything because, as I said, you just reach out to me and I'm happy to discuss the course and any questions that you have. So, insofar as today, what I wanted to do was just share my screen and uh, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to share the course homepage. This is something you've already seen. And they've got on this particular page my email address. There is a news forum where I will jump in and send messages out. There's a social forum that any of you can jump on and I invite you to share recipes or whatever you want. It doesn't have to be related to the course at all. So feel free to use that. And then, of course, email. There are important student resources here. I won't go into those. You can feel free to take a look on your own time. And then, as you see, week one, week 13. When you click on each week, you can scroll down and there is an instructor welcome letter. It gives a bit of background information on me. There is the course outline, which is absolutely hands down the most important document uh, in this course and probably in any course. So the course outline gives you all of the information or a great deal of information that you need to know about deadlines and assignments, et cetera, et cetera. We have the class introductions, which, as I said, many of you have already done. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action, which you want to read. There is this folder on APA, which stands for American Psychological Association, and that is a way to write academically. And in there, if you click on it, you will see there are two documents. One is an APA guide. It's about 2 pages long, and it gives you some information on writing in APA. There is also a sample APA paper, and this is a paper that I wrote, well, maybe 10 to 12 years ago when I was in graduate school. And I didn't write it on my own. I wrote it in a team. And it's a really good example of how to write an APA, specifically focusing on two things. And I'll just open this up for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me just make that happen here. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So if I scroll down, there are two really, really important things when it comes to writing in APA. And those two really important things, one of them is right here. You can see in parentheses, it has an author's last name, and then it has a year. What that is, so take a step back here. In my team, somebody, I don't think it was me, but somebody in the team wrote this paragraph. And specifically, when they wrote this sentence here that comes right before the parentheses of Gallo 2011, they didn't know that information. They found that information from Gallo, an author. And so when they wrote that sentence, for instance, Branson is commonly known to promote and offer a greater number of vacation days, flex time, and paid time off than other companies. The person who wrote that didn't know that when they were doing this research. They learned that information from Gallo, and APA says, well, really, I mean, to avoid plagiarism, you don't want to take information that doesn't belong to you and say that it's yours. So the way you credit an author is by putting an in-text citation. This little thing here in the parentheses is called an in-text citation. And what it is doing is it's giving credit to Gallo, and the year is the year of publication of the article or the book or whatever. And so whoever wrote the paragraph was careful. They didn't want to plagiarize. They didn't want to take any information from Gallo and pretend that it was theirs. And so they went ahead and wrote that sentence. And then at the end of the sentence, they put Gallo 2011. So that's what's called an in-text citation. And that's really, really important when it comes to writing in APA. And you will see as you scroll down, almost every single paragraph has an in-text citation. There's one here, there's one here, and it continues on. There's another one here, right? And so in teaching, I always say to students, as a guideline, it's great to have one in-text citation paragraph, just as a guide. It doesn't mean that every single paragraph should have one. And it's not to say that you can't have more than one. You definitely don't want to have a paragraph that has 3, 4, 5 in-text citations, because then you're not really writing the paragraph. It's you're taking information from someone else. So those are in-text citations. And the other important thing, the second thing about APA that is really important, is always found at the end of an essay or document or assignment. And at the very, very end, on its own separate page, are the references. And this is where you're putting down all of the information related to the source of the information that you found. So just looking at this first one, the author was Scott Allen. The title of the article was Richard Branson, the rebel billionaire and the ultimate multipreneur. And it was found outcome. It was retrieved or pulled on October 11, 2012. And then there is the link from the internet or the URL. And references are always alphabetical with last name. And so you can see these are all the references. So when you put the paper together, you've got in-text citations, identifying where you got an idea. And then at the very end, on its own separate page, you have a references document that gives all of the additional information regarding those sources of information. So if you've never written an APA, this will be new to you, but it is the expectation of the course that you write an APA, and the primary document or the primary source of information for this course is the course textbook. And the course textbook is identified in the course outline, and I'll talk about that when I open up the course outline. So the course textbook is the primary source. That means you're expected to buy it, digital or paper. You're expected to read it, and you're expected to use it in your writing. So there we go. That's APA. There's there's the sample paper, and then of course there's another document related to APA, which is a guideline, sorry, when it comes to writing in APA. Now, it's probably the most challenging aspect when I think about teaching. Students will either ignore APA, they'll mix up references and in-text citations. They will only use one in-text citation in an entire paper. So there's a whole list of things, and so really, if you have any questions about APA, feel free to reach out to me and to ask. As I said, guideline is one in-text citation per paragraph, which is really showing me that you're reading the course textbook, which, by the way, is right here on this page, called Our Shared Future, Windows into Canada's Reconciliation Journey. And it's showing me that you're reading it, it's showing me that you're understanding it, and that you're able to apply it to your thinking during this course. Okay, so now what you have on your screen is the course outline. And as I said, this is the most important document in the course. We have the title of the course at the very top. We've got the contact information underneath. And then we have the course materials. And the course materials are very straightforward. It's just one book. That's all it is. Our Shared Future. And as I said, you can get it digitally, or you can get it in hard copy. So just scrolling down a little bit, I'll just kind of walk you through this outline. The course objective. This is an introductory seminar examining leadership theory and the skills required for future leaders to lead organizations and communities within the context of reconciliation. Students will assess their attitudes, biases, beliefs, and current leadership skills and create a leadership portfolio, among other assignments. The format, each week, we'll list required readings, activities, assignments, description, which is found in each of the weeks. The description of assignments, in other words, the things that you need to do, are not found, the specific instructions are not found in the course outline. They are found in each of the weeks. And then, of course, due date for each of the assignments. From a learning objective perspective, this is what we're hoping to accomplish when you take this course. That you walk away understanding key concepts and terms related to leadership in Western colonial and Indigenous settings. That you are able to review the history of policies limiting Indigenous leadership, including residential schools and their impact. That you're able to identify the key findings and importance of Canada's Truth and Reconciliation Commission report. That you're able to analyze and respond to leadership scenarios by applying key concepts related to leadership, culture, gender, and reconciliation. And finally, you prepare a leadership portfolio that reflects your individual achievements, skills, and activities that have contributed to your leadership style. So, further down, we have guidelines. And you can see some of it has been highlighted. And that's because it's super, super important. So the very first paragraph that is highlighted is plagiarism and cheating will not be tolerated. Don't cheat because you might get caught. And if you get caught, there are serious consequences to it. So it's not worth it. Don't get someone else to write your paper, including artificial intelligence. Just don't do it. You're hurting yourself when you do it. If you're concerned about your writing skills, don't worry. And what I mean by that is do your best. And when I grade, I will give you feedback and I will also meet with you if you want and give you suggestions or recommendations on how to improve your writing. Everybody has different levels of writing. You might as well use this course as an opportunity to improve on your writing skills. So don't cheat. It's not worth it. One of the reasons I will add that it's not worth it is even if you do cheat and you don't get caught, at some point when you get a job and you're expected to write, and if you have difficulty writing or you are fearful of writing, that employer is going to find out. And when they find out that you can't write as well as you might have told them that you can, they would have grounds to terminate your employment. So you just don't want to have to deal with that. The second highlighted section is just about artificial intelligence, and if you use it at all, it gets reported to the dean. And they do have software in place to detect it, so don't do it. The next highlighted section is about handing things in late. Just don't do it. If you hand in things on time, even before the deadline or on the deadline, no worries. Okay? You and I don't need to talk. But if you hand in an assignment past the deadline, you can see 10% is deducted every single day. So if the deadline is Sunday and you hand it in on Monday, that's 10%. If you hand it on Wednesday, that's 30%. It adds up quickly. And that's why it is so critical to hand in your assignments on time. If, for whatever reason, you think that you're unable to hand in your assignment on time or by the deadline, reach out to me in advance of the deadline to let me know. But that probably won't change anything because I don't give extensions on papers. And the only way that someone almost exclusively is able to get an extension on a paper is if they have an accommodation letter from the university. If there's no accommodation letter, it is almost inevitable that there will be no extension. And this is why I tell students right at the very, very beginning. So be prepared. And as often as I tell classes that I don't give extensions unless it's a very, very specific circumstance. As I said, the accommodation letter is one of them. And really, it's the only one. But, there can be extenuating circumstances, but almost never. I tell people now at the very beginning, but it doesn't matter. Every year when I teach this course, I tell students, and inevitably I get emails. Oh, something happened. I'm not going to be able to submit on time. It's okay. You can't submit on time. You can't submit on time. But 10% is deducted every day. And I almost never waver from that. Now, the good news is that, first of all, it's 10% deducted every day. I also teach at other academic institutions, including at the University of Manitoba, where if you miss the deadline, you get 0. That's it. So this is a positive that you don't get a zero, that it's only 10% per day. So this actually is very, very generous. And I think, the University of Manitoba and other academic institutions provide a zero if you miss the deadline. The reason they're doing it is they're trying to prepare students for real life. And when you're out in the workforce and working and your boss says, I need this tomorrow, generally, that's what they mean. They need it tomorrow. And if you don't give it to them tomorrow, then you could be in serious trouble and you could lose your job potentially. So there you have it. Unless you have an accommodation letter from the university, the chances of being given an extension are slim to nil. So therefore, get the assignments in on time. The other thing I wanted to mention about the good news is that there's nothing, we're in week 2. You don't have anything due for the next few weeks. So it's going to give you time to really go through the course outline, go through the course schedule, look at the course textbook, look at the amount of reading that you have to do. And also, it allows you to work ahead, which I used to be a student, I know. I used to wait until the night before something was due. Um, that would not be a good strategy for this course because as we move into the course, the reading will pile up. And if you're taking other courses at university, it's just not a good strategy to leave things until the very end. So there you go. Okay, that's how it works for deadlines and extensions. Scrolling down, you can see there's writing resources, and that's a particular office that can assist. And as I said, I'm happy to assist as well. Any students with special needs, there's information. And then we have the assessment and the grading. So here you go. 100% is broken down with two reflection papers, each worth 15%. You have a proposal called the reconciliation proposal. You have a plan, you have the proposal that is worth 15%. You have a reconciliation plan that's worth 25%. And finally, you have the leadership portfolio that is worth 30%. So the reflection papers, 2 of them, each 15%. These are personal takeaways, what you've learned cumulatively to that point in the overall course. So I think the first reflection paper is probably due, I want to say week 5. We'll confirm that when I scroll down to the course schedule. And so what that means is that any reading that you've done, either of the course textbook and also just in each of the weeks, and things that you've learned, maybe videos that you've watched, etc. All of these things are cumulative, right? They're all adding up. And so the takeaways are the point at which your thinking about the topic was impacted, changed, informed, or challenged. So these reflection papers are really about your personal thoughts, what you've learned, what it means to you. And yes, you have to write them in APA. And yes, you have to include in-text citations and references. Every single assignment here, from the reflection papers to the proposal to the plan to the leadership portfolio, they all expect APA writing. They all expect in-text citations and references. We scroll down to the reconciliation proposal. This is worth 15% and designed to get you thinking about what your plan is going to be midway through the course so you can be gathering and processing course material that might be relevant. But just going back, one is a proposal, one is the plan. I'm proposing this, and then you will get feedback on that paper. And then I'm going to turn that proposal into this plan. And regarding the proposal and the plan, there are instructions in the weeks in the course that you'll see, and really focus. And I've told that this, and I've repeated it before, and I've said it over and over again. It has to be something you can actually legitimately do. It can't be, or it's not supposed to be some high in the sky idea. Oh, I want to make sure that every student going through elementary school in the entire country receives information on residential schooling. Well, while that idea is honorable and it's a fantastic idea, it is not within someone's means to do that. You would have to be the prime minister of the country, and even then, education is controlled by each of the provinces. So it has to be realistic. It has to be viable, which is one of the words that I use in the instructions, meaning you've got to be able to prove to me that you can actually do this. And so one of the things that I've mentioned to students is choose something small. It doesn't have to be a huge idea. Choose something small. I mean, you can choose what you want, but if you choose something smaller, something with a smaller scope, then it will be much more believable that you can do it. I've had students, for example, say, um, I want to hold a 5-day event at a park, and I want to highlight, the consequences of residential schooling and the 60s scoop, etc. And so I will turn around and go, 5 days? Well, who's paying for this? Where are you getting money? What's the budget? What if it rains? Who are you inviting? Why would they come? Blah, blah, blah. So the bigger the idea, the there's a stronger possibility that it's not going to be something that you can actually do. And it should be something that you can do in the very near future. Writing a paper, talking about your proposal and your plan, and saying that you're going to do this in 5 years from now or 3 years from now when you graduate university, that's not the intention at all. It's to show to me that this is something that you can, if you choose, you can actually do right away. And I do have students who write, I've already reached out to this person, I'm doing this, and they're writing it in present tense. And, do I check up on them and actually make sure they're not lying to me? No, of course not. But but the writing of the proposal, uh, the writing of the plan are supposed to bring tremendous meaning to you. And it's not supposed to be just another academic exercise or academic paper. I want you to find something that you're passionate about, because the more passionate you are, the more meaning it's going to bring to you, and the less it's going to feel it's an exercise. Anyways, that's down the road. But I just wanted to highlight that for you. So there's the proposal, there is the plan. Proposal is the theory, and the plan is putting it into action. And then finally, the leadership portfolio. And the leadership portfolio is worth 30%. But the good news is it's really a culmination of all of the work that you've done. Yes, there are one or two things that are new, but the vast majority of the portfolio, you are combining your reflections, you are combining your proposal and your plan, and you're putting it all together. And then you can see in light yellow, black, bold, underlined, in-text citations and references following APA writing style are required for all assignments. Of course, text is your primary source. Other readings and viewing materials will be the secondary sources for your citations. And you're also free to use other sources outside of the class materials to support your arguments, but that's in addition to using primary and the secondary sources. And so therefore, what that means is someone who submits a paper, and I don't see any in-text citations or reference to the class textbook or shared future. Instead, I see them talking about other sources that they have found on the internet, for example. While that's great that they found other sources of information, it's not following the instructions because the course textbook, the course textbook is the primary source. So that's extremely. And here we are, the course schedule. So week 1, no assessments. Week 2, no assessments. In other words, this column on the right-hand side. Week 3, no assessments. Week 4, they you will find leadership surveys, and while you're expected to complete them, and you do need to speak to people and get some information because it's a survey, you're not submitting the surveys until the very end of the course, and you're including those surveys in the leadership portfolio. So it's not an assignment. And because you're not submitting to me in week 4, you're submitting at the very end. So your very, very first assignment is week 5, and that is your very first reflection paper, and that's due February 11th. And considering today is January 16th, this is due almost a month from now. So this is what I was talking about. You have time to read and start really looking at what is due and if possible working ahead so that you minimize the impact as you get closer to deadlines. Under the unit readings, it tells you everything you're supposed to do. Our shared future is identified with the number of pages to read per week. So you can see in week 2, which is this week, just 1 to 7 pages, right? From page 1 to page 7. That's not a lot of reading. But as we move further into the course, the readings may increase. So in week 3, pages 9 to 27, week 4, 35 to 45. Okay, it's a little bit less. Week 5, 47 to 65, and so forth and so forth. Okay, and then these other things that you will find in each of the weeks. So just focusing on really from a student's perspective, the most important is the assessments column. This one here. So you have the very first assignment due February 11. That's reflection paper 1, and it's due at 4 p.m. And all the assignments are due at 4 p.m. And this would be on weekends, I believe. February 11. Let's check here. Yeah, it's a weekend. I think they're all due on Sundays. The next thing that you have due is a reconciliation proposal. It's due March 10. That's a month later. So this course doesn't have tests and exams and assignments due 1 week after the other. There are large gaps in between. Don't let that fool you and let it creep up on you. And then suddenly the night before, you're like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot, right? So the reconciliation proposal is week 8, and that is due March 10. Then the next one that's due is the actual plan, and that's due March 24. So that's, 2 weeks after the proposal is due. Then the next is reflection paper number 2, which is due April 7. And finally, a portfolio is due April 27 at 4 p.m. And that is the course schedule. So what I strongly suggest is you read very carefully this course outline, document, paying extra attention to the course schedule, make note of the deadlines, put them into your calendar, whatever system you have so that you don't miss those deadlines, because again, you will lose 10% per day. Okay, so that's what the course outline looks like. And then just going back to this is the course homepage. And as I said, everything is nicely, neatly arranged from all of these weeks, all the way to week 13. Just by clicking on any week, you can see the link, and then you just click on that. Week 3, same idea, readings and reconciliation link. week 4, and here are the surveys that I was talking about. So even though you're supposed to complete them in week 4, you don't have to submit them until the end of the course. However, the reason that they are asked to be completed early on in the course is because um, surveys will ask you questions about what you think leadership is and what is important, what are important characteristics of leadership. And if you don't do the surveys at near the beginning of the course, then you won't have anything to compare and contrast your learning. But if you do the surveys in week 4, complete them by week 4, which means you can start working on them this week and next week. And if you complete them by week 4, then you've completed them early enough in the course that week 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you're learning a whole bunch of new information about leadership, leadership styles, what is important, et cetera, et cetera. And so at the end, in the leadership portfolio, you can comment on that and you can say, well, when I started the course, this is what I thought leadership was. I thought leadership was the same thing as management, for example. Then during the course, I was able to identify that that is not the case. And I learned this and this and that. And so it's really like a pre-post kind of thing. And that's why it's important to complete the surveys early on in the course and not wait until the very end, because you won't be able to compare and contrast the learning that you have achieved. And just as another example, clicking on week 5, this is the first week where you actually have something due. And so this is what I was talking about. There aren't specific instructions within the course outline about each assignment, because you're going to find those specific instructions right here in the assignment. So when I click on reflection 1, it opens. Maybe it's not opening. There we go. Here it is. So here are the instructions. The first thing you see is the deadline. And then it goes on to say 500-word essay, which is about 2 pages, and then it breaks down the number of words for each of these sections. And then again, in black, bold, underlined wording, I have put down right name, use the textbook, etc., right? And so that's what each assignment will have. Very specific instructions as soon as you open up the assignment, and then you can start working on that. So I think I've taken up a sufficient amount of your time. It is now 6:05 in Manitoba. This is the course. This is what it looks like. Get the textbook. If you don't have that course textbook for your future, you won't do well in this course. So you need it. There's really no way around it at all, because I'm going to be looking for it in all of your assignments. So you do need it, and you do need to read it, and you need to cite it to demonstrate to me that you are actually reading it. And if you do that and you read the other materials in each of the week, and you follow the instructions and you do all of those things, then you should do well in the course. Now, as I say, everyone writes at different levels, and I am a stickler when it comes to proofreading, and therefore, when you write a paper, write it, walk away, come back, read it again, come back, read it again. You will find errors. It's almost inevitable. And if you are including a whole bunch of grammatical errors that are really, really obvious, I mean, to the point where they're underlined word, then you're going to see that in your grading. So I do expect students to pay attention to what they're writing and to proofread multiple times before they submit. I guess, that's pretty much it. Really, in a nutshell, this is a course that combines leadership theory with reconciliation. You're going to learn a tremendous amount about reconciliation in Canada. And And this has really been highlighted since 2015 with the calls to action being released. There has been, every single week, probably, there are articles in the paper in Manitoba about reconciliation, about residential schooling, about 60 Scoop, about uh, 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 treaties, and I mean, I could say it's almost daily. It's a very, very hot topic, and determining what the solution is going to be is extremely difficult. So you're going to learn a tremendous amount about the history of Canada and how it came to be. And this is education that I never received growing up in school. It just wasn't talked about. It wasn't part of the curriculum. So you should be able to learn a significant amount on the reconciliation piece as well as the leadership piece. And then when combining those two, you should be able to walk away with a very good idea of should you end up being a leader in multiple different areas. I mean, leadership is not just about in it's about what you do in your life, in your personal life as well, in your families, et cetera, et cetera. But you'll have a very strong understanding of what characteristics are important for leadership, as well as the reconciliation piece. How do we reconcile? How do Canadians and Canadian governments reconcile with the damage caused to Indigenous populations, not just First Nations, Métis, Inuit as well? So it's a very, very interesting course, and I think you'll learn a lot. The key is communication. If you don't know something, don't assume. Reach out to me at any point. I do monitor my emails very, very carefully. And as I said, if you want to have a Zoom call with me to really delve into something that can't be done via email, I'm more than happy to do that for you. That is it. Thank you very much for your patience, for listening to me. I hope everyone watches the video. Otherwise, they may not do so well in the course. And good luck with the course. And as I said, feel free to reach out to me at any time with questions. Thank you very much and have a fantastic weekend for now. And I'm just closing this now. Bye.